So first of all, I would like to welcome you to the presentation of my PhD thesis. My name is Sybille Holz. I'm a lecturer at the chair of primary and pre-primary education at the University of Passau in Bavaria, Germany. And my PhD thesis aims at enlightening the group of minority teachers. And I would like to answer the question whether minority teacher recruitment leads to approaches for the Bavarian teacher training program, because we want to utilize their capabilities for primary school. To introduce you to the topic, I would first of all like to explain you what a minority teacher is. So normally the term is used to describe people who belong to the group of ethnic minorities. Visible minorities in the US, for example, such groups as Afro-Americans, Asians, Africans, people of Caribbean or Mexican background. You can also find the term teacher of color in Canadian or British literature. In Germany, we also use the term minority teacher to describe teachers with migration background in general. So now I would like to show you some reasons why we do or why we should do minority teacher recruitment. Well, Freeman, for example, found out that there's a high risk of the so-called diversity-related burnout, especially for teachers in primary school with no migration background in intercultural settings. So they do not have the strategies to cope with an intercultural, with a multicultural classroom. Another reason would be that minority teachers serve as role models, mentors, and the so-called change agents. A change agent is a person who has himself or herself experienced discrimination, marginalization, but a minority teacher can also be a change agent concerning the colleagues. And the third point would be that there's more trust in people with minority teacher background by learners who have a migration background themselves. And especially, and very important, there's more trust by their families. Edelman and Rothe, for example, found out that concerning the self-concept of a minority teacher, they're very open-minded concerning the handling of cultural diversity. But it is not at all done to say we need a lot of minority teachers in our schools, because this open-minded handling of diversity is not a knowledge-based one. As Georgi found out, it's rather an intuitive one. Over 70% say that. So they need the kind of knowledge and a training program to use these capabilities. So the question now would be, do we really need some kind of minority teacher recruitment? Wouldn't it be enough to say we have German teachers with no migration background and we give them, for example, an intercultural training? No, it would not serve. Let's have a look. Reasons for minority teacher recruitment are first of all based on the diverse German society. Maybe you have heard of the age of migration. It's a term used by the North American education researcher Suarez Orozco, and he uses it to describe the 21st century age of migration. It is estimated that worldwide 200 million of people have migration status. Numbers are rising, and they do so even in Germany. Another question might be, why do I focus on primary school? Well, diversity is a very important theme there. It is the earliest education institution some of our children come in contact with. So, in Germany and Bavaria especially, it is not obligatory for the children to attend kindergarten or go to a preschool. So, furthermore, it is an institution open for all children. Also open for children with special needs, for example. So the heterogeneity is quite high. As Budnitsky et al. Manifested, pupils in primary school are heterogeneous due to age, gender, socioeconomic background, religion, special needs, individual learning disposition, socioeconomic background, I've already mentioned, language, and also ethnic and cultural diversity. And especially the latest key points lead to the problem that some of our teachers with non-migration background might feel uncomfortable in a multicultural classroom. So think of the diversity-related burnout I have already mentioned. So they do not know how to face upcoming hurdles and problems in this classroom. Connected with this problem is also the tendency of ascribing less education aspiration to children with minority backgrounds. So only 1/4 of the pupils in primary school are sent to the German gymnasium, which equals grammar school. And most of them, nearly half, are sent to Hauptschule, which does not give them the chance to go to university later on. Not in a direct way, at least. So there's the law, the Bavarian law, that says we have to kind of react to that circumstances. The guidelines for the education of children in primary school say, well, we can face that problem. We just need multi-professional teams, and they ensure educational equality. Well, if it would be that easy. Now, let's have a look at reality. The overall population of people with migration background in Germany is continuously growing, as I have already mentioned. At the moment, more than 20% have migration background in a strict sense. So they are not born in Germany, or they do not speak German as first language. And as you can see in the pie chart on the left, at the moment we have a percentage of 32.1% of children with migration background in primary school. So 1/3. And for the average classroom, this could mean that there's one teacher, 25 pupils, and maybe 8 of them speaking German as a second language. Might also be the fact that they have 8 different mother tongues. Now, let's have a look at the teachers. Only 6.2% of teachers in Germany do have migration background. So, as you can see, 32.1% and 6.2%, that's not equal. And if we have a look at the Bavarian percentage of teachers with migration background, it's really stunning. In Bavaria, around about 12% of pupils in primary school have migration background. That's not as much as the German number, all in all. But the number of teachers with migration background in Bavaria is estimated to be under 1%. So there's obviously a lot to do. In Hamburg, for example, more than 20% of the students have migration background that take part in a teacher training program. These led to some questions I like to answer with my PhD thesis. First of all, which organizational and structural hurdles do exist in the Bavarian teacher training program for minority students and also for teachers with foreign background. This could be, on the one hand, for example, financing. It could also be a lack of appropriate courses or whatever. And then I would like to focus on teacher training programs in the US, in Canada and in Great Britain, because they try to raise the number of minority teachers. The question why I chose Great Britain, for example, or the US, can be easily answered. They have a lot of experience concerning that field, and they even started in the 1980s to generate as what we call minority teacher recruitment programs. So Bavaria, for example, finally said in 2007 that teachers with migration background are a great resource. I mean, that is nearly 30 years later than the American recognized it. And the third question would be, which conditions make such programs successful and are feasible for the Bavarian teacher training program? Because I have to admit, our teacher training program is not that easy. We do not yet have the bachelor and master programs. We still have what is called a Staatsexamen, a state examination. And Bavarian-wide, our students have to undergo the same final exam, but the preparation for this exam is different at every university. So it's a hard question, and I hope I can find some answers. So I would like to introduce you finally my research design. What I want to do, or what I do at the moment, is a conceptual analysis of current teacher training programs in North America and in Great Britain. And I would like to do around about 20 semi-structured expert interviews with participants of these programs, according to Glaser-Laudel. And finally, do a qualitative content analysis. What I hope for is gaining some information to formulate a set of criteria for restructuring the Bavarian teacher training program, because one day I hope that we are going to change from Staatsexamen, from state examination, as a final exam, and kind of offer bachelor and master programs. Yes, I would like to end my presentation with connecting the idea of multiculturality, education, and the theme of this Young Scientists Conference, sustainability. In a globalized world in which migration is a well-known phenomenon, we have to craft policies to cope with its impact on the society and on the individual. On the one hand, people with migration background try to become part of a society, they try to assimilate, and on the other hand, they have their own individual cultural heritage. We should no longer try to define the self by dissociating ourselves from the other, as, for example, Edward Said said. Developing a new transcultural way of thinking is no agenda that can be fulfilled within the next 10 or 20 years. But it applies to upcoming generations. So we have to start with a new way of thinking and educating, especially in primary school. And teachers with migration background could work as initiators of school development processes, hopefully. Thank you for your attention.